my friends, it is September 24th, 2022, about 10:52 a.m. And unfortunately, after reporting on one major storm, this time of year, you kind of have to move right on to the next one. And that's exactly what we have to be doing right now. You are looking at Tropical Storm Ian just underneath Cuba. You can see Jamaica just there to the north of Ian, and it has just bypassed Dominican Republic and Haiti. So what is the deal with this storm? We're going to get into all the important charts and stuff like that, but take a look at what the Weather Channel is saying right now. Life-threatening impacts can and do extend far outside the cone of uncertainty for Ian. Now, what is the cone of uncertainty? Well, you're looking at it right now. It's this cone shape that you're seeing right now of the potential impacts or places that Ian could possibly go. Now, one thing that is pretty certain about Ian, according to most experts, and exactly what I'm seeing here, is that Ian is going to become a hurricane early Monday, just as it's approaching the Cayman Islands. You can see right here highlighted in pink, they're already under hurricane watches. Jamaica's under tropical storm watches, but it looks like Ian's going to pass just underneath Jamaica, possibly eliminating it from any sort of major weather, but the Cayman Islands is a different story. And then, of course, we have western Cuba, and then the cone of uncertainty widens all the way to the panhandle of Florida, basically encompassing the entire state of Florida. Now, another thing I want you to notice very quickly is the letter M right there. That means major hurricane. So we're going from storm, as in Tropical Storm Ian, which is what we have right now, about 45-mile-per-hour winds, to a hurricane status, which, as we know, is anything above 74 miles per hour. But then we get into that major category, and that's where things are going to get a little hairy. And we're talking early Wednesday morning. This could shift about 8 hours ahead of time or about 8 hours early than what they're saying right about now. We are going to jump over to the GFS right now, and as you can see, as Ian approaches the Cayman Islands, as you can see right here, 979, that is a legit hurricane right there. But what happens after is what we need to be worrying about here in the States. 953 millibars in pressure as it passes western Cuba, kind of shoots the gap between Cancun, Mexico, and that western edge of Cuba. And then just as that cone of uncertainty says, this thing's going to be at its strongest, more than likely on Wednesday, September 28th at 934 millibars. And once again, we're going to use this Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale to justify what that means. And we just used this yesterday, talking about Hurricane Fiona and what the impacts could have been for Nova Scotia. Now, Nova Scotia got hit with about 100-mile-per-hour winds. That is still going on as we speak now. But once again, if we're going to throw this in the 930 millibar area, we're talking about a Category 4 hurricane, while this thing is just off the coast of the panhandle of Florida and then Florida itself. That is according to what most of the spaghetti plots are showing. So as you can see, these spaghetti plots here have Ian pretty much in the same spot until we get to about western Cuba, or that area between Cancun and western Cuba. Once again, that's when things get a little bit different. That's when these spaghetti plots begin to spread out, and they kind of have a little bit of a disagreement of where landfall may be. But so far, all the landfalls are taking place in Florida. And that is once again why we have what is called the cone of uncertainty. Again, here's a look at that cone. It's covering the entire state of Florida, basically, except for that far western part of the panhandle. Of course, that is not out of possibility yet. We've seen hurricanes shift in directions that no one ever thought possible, not even the Weather Channel, no storm predictor, none of that stuff. Anything can happen with these hurricanes. But as of right now, this data is showing that early Wednesday, we should be able to see a major hurricane in Ian taking aim at some part of Florida. And there's no denying the fact that this will more than likely become a hurricane. You can see those black areas and even the purple. These are all different storms bubbling up. This is already a tropical storm. We're going to begin to see that counterclockwise spin more than likely within the next 8 hours. This thing could be a hurricane fairly quickly, a little bit quicker than expected based on what the data is showing right now. This thing is forming a little faster than previously thought. And I also want to give you an idea of time frame here. We are over on Vent2Sky. You're looking at Ian in current time right now, Saturday the 24th. That is today. Tropical storm Ian, about 45 to 50 mile per hour winds. But take a look at this as we go each day. Here is Sunday the 25th. We can see it pass just underneath Jamaica right here. As we move into Monday the 26th, it jumps pretty far right to the Cayman Islands and then underneath western Cuba. We are now looking at a legit Category 1, possibly even a Category 2 based on how this thing is forming. As we jump into Tuesday the 27th, we're looking at a very strong hurricane, possibly a Category 2 to Category 3 as it crosses between Cancun, Mexico and western Cuba. Now, the interaction with western Cuba is going to be a very big deal because that could for a little bit stall the strength of this storm based on the interaction with land. But once it gets into these warm waters of the Gulf, all bets are off. Here is Wednesday the 28th. Now, as of right now, Vent2Sky with the GFS model has this thing sitting in the pocket of the panhandle of Florida and then the extension part of Florida that sticks out into the ocean. So again, it's very hard to predict where in Florida this storm is going to make landfall. But nonetheless, we're looking at a major hurricane at that time. Wednesday the 28th is going to be a key day when it comes to the spaghetti plots and different cones of uncertainty like we just talked about where this storm is actually going to make landfall. And again, that doesn't mean that, let's say, Mississippi, Alabama, even possibly Louisiana are out of the picture here. Anything can happen in the next 4 days. It's a long period of time for a hurricane. But again, most of the major weather stations are pretty confident about the fact that Florida is more than likely going to get a landfall from this storm. Again, I'm not making any predictions here. I'm showing you what the data has as of right now. These things may change, and I'm going to keep you updated on all this stuff as it does change. So very quickly, just to recap, we do have Tropical Storm Ian, obviously expected to be a hurricane by early Monday morning. Could be a little sooner. But again, this cone of uncertainty is what we want to pay attention to. This changes every few hours, so you want to keep an eye on this. There's many ways to access this. I'll leave the link for it in the description box, because the cone of uncertainty basically says that they are uncertain about where this storm's going to go. So it could go anywhere in this area as of this time. Whatever happens with Ian as time goes forward, I will bring you those updates. There's no doubt about that. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. Definitely a shout out to Canada today after Fiona made landfall. We'll be checking in on the damage and things that happened over in the coastlines of Nova Scotia. But as of right now, we need to shift our attention to possible Hurricane Ian. More than likely, again, will be a hurricane within the next 8 to 12 hours. Going to be a big deal in the news. You're going to be seeing it all over the place, especially if this thing makes it into the Gulf of Mexico, which it looks like it's absolutely going to do. All right, my friends, thank you so much. I will be back soon. Talk to you then. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.